Draft.dev monthly webinars. We usually love to cover a variety of DevRel and dev marketing topics. However, this month is particularly special in my mind because of some great work of passion by Carolyn and her team. She is one of the founders of a DevRel agency, which, by the way, if you ever need help with dev experience, like driving a better developer experience situation, auditing your current one, please hit them up. There's a link in the chat there. But we're going to be talking about the report that her and her team work on every single year, which is the State of DevRel Report. It is an ever-changing profession. It's evolving quickly. It has been growing wildly over the last few years. And with that, she has been laying the groundwork for trying to get as much data on those changes in the evolution of the profession as we proceed. So check out the report. If you want to know the specific details and look at the numbers, I highly recommend looking at it. Today, we're going to talk more about the takeaways of what you've been seeing, Carolyn, over the last few months since the report came out. And sort of where we see the industry going next year or the profession going next year. But the report itself dives into the people that are employed by the profession, how they're employed, where you typically find them within the organization, what are their actual day-to-day activities, how are they measuring the success of their positions, even things like compensation are typically covered in that report. And it's all reported on by actual professionals operating within the space. So you guys send out a survey earlier in the year every year. Then you collect that information and put it into a very readable format, usually the second half of every year. So let me gather my head here after sorting through those typical Zoom issues that love to present themselves. But anything else that I would miss there that you'd like to intro on the report, Carolyn, before we kick off here?
Thanks, Clayton, for having me, and yeah, really interested in diving into the report. Just wanted to say too, so this is the second year that the report's actually fully been online in terms of the results. So I know there's still a few people asking me for hard copies, but that's always harder to. There's always one typo you find that you can't get rid of once you published it. This makes it a lot easier and more accessible, but also just wanted to do a shout out to our sponsors. This is the second time that we've also had sponsors help us put this together. So thanks to API-Matic, thanks to Fern, and thanks to DZone. And we also have, every year we bring in a number of real live DevRel professionals to help us decide what the questions should be, and also look through the report and the analysis of it to make sure that we're seeing everything, right? We want a really good perspective on that. So we've got a really great working group too of lots of different folks that helped us out. So thank you very much to everybody that participated. It takes a community.
I was going to say it takes a village, right? Or that's the go-to saying. So although it's only its second year being published online, this is technically the 11th year of it, right? And you've had it going for a while. So I think we drive straight into some of these key findings here. The first I noticed in the report, and I think this one's pretty critical, looking at some of my notes here, is the growing connection between these professions and how they're driving revenue for their organizations. I feel like over the last few years, particularly as the job role is defining itself, you've seen a lot of lack of stability in the role. And sometimes that can be tied to soft ROI within marketing positions. I have a feeling a lot of that's probably tied to that. What's your take on seeing that pop up this year?
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, as we've seen over the last 11 years, it's changed from, how the role is defined and who's in it. That's expanding. And also the recognition that that role does drive business value, and business goals to whatever that means to a particular organization or a company. And so to see that, there's goals that are being tracked beyond vanity metrics is really fantastic. So there's a real understanding. And I think it, just came from the maturing of the industry, but also, there's been a lot of frothiness lately, just within tech, right? Of lots of people getting laid off. And, as we noted, quantitatively, not qualitatively like in the survey, but also in the survey, it really showed us that those who were not driving business value and showing that they at least understood what that meant were the ones that were let go much easier. it's nice to always talk about community. Community is really important, but at the same time, you're working for a business, and the business has a bottom line, right? And they're paying your salary. So we need to open our minds to that.
That seems to usually be just a struggle in our industry in general, because like community development and content creation tend to be the most effective ways of marketing in our space. Also tend to require, I guess, the stomach to wait for the metrics to show on those. So I can see where it's definitely a priority for these positions to make sure that they're measuring the ROI of it. Did you see any specific new ways of measuring that ROI amongst the roles? Since you said lack the little bit more concrete forms of showing how they're driving business value for the business. What were maybe a couple examples on that front that you saw?
Sure, I've seen anything new. I should actually go and call that up in terms of salary. So I'm just looking at the report
Yeah,
on uh, on my side here. And so, what we did on the report is we aligned what the developer relations objectives are in the journeys.
okay.
The discover, evaluate, learn, build, and scale. And then we took the metrics that people put into the survey, and we put them into those developer objectives and the DevRel objectives. And the biggest one that always stands out is a few years ago, it was, up to 40% of people that we don't measure. And that's simply 3%. Yeah, so it's only 7.3% right now, which is still not good, but, way, way, way better. And, we used to see, and we're still seeing a lot of metrics because there's a still strong, sort of marketing and discovery and evangelism and advocacy part of DevRel where, and yes, you need to measure what your engagement is, and you need to measure, how many people are coming to see your content and that sort of thing. But we are seeing more metrics and more, more measurement along that curve. So, 17.5% are measuring revenue influenced. Yay for that,
Yeah.
right? Product downloads, time to hello world, and sales even are starting to be measured, which is great. The number one measurement, though, a little bit farther along the scale, which again is important, is around engagement. Active users, 44.3%. Fantastic. And, part of that is API calls and leads and program members and revenue generated, and that's fantastic. And retention too. And, as we see with a lot of companies, reducing churn becomes so important.
Yeah.
And I think that's a strategy we see that's happening where, you can go out and evangelize and do the marketing and fill up the funnel as much as you want, and even, get them to become members and use your product. But if they're not coming back and actually using it to create something,
Exactly.
you don't win. You don't have a sustainable business for yourself.
That'd be maybe one of the more interesting points. I'm curious to see how that continues to grow next year. As an account manager by trade, I'm always most concerned about churn, right? But I feel like in our industry, particularly like when people are chasing rounds of fundings, it's all about new client. How are we getting new users, whether you're open source or enterprise? Seeing how the DevRel position almost like you said, as these companies continue to mature, they're going to have to, in a way, be focused on those retention elements. What does DevRel mean to keeping your current user base happy? And
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm really curious to see how that continues to grow.
I
Oh,
just want to say one thing that we've seen over the last few years, I think it probably was Twilio who often sort of starts these trends, but they started to have a developer success role.
yeah.
Yeah, and so I do think we're going to see more of that come as companies mature and understand, their products mature and the understanding. Yeah.
Well, that comes down to defining the roles of the DevRel, right? And that's something that I've noticed since I started keeping up your report a couple of years ago is there used to be a lot of ambiguity. It was sort of like DevRel meant a lot of different things to a lot of different people within organizations, even which department it fell under. Like you never quite knew where to look for that individual at. And then there was
Might change it, yours.
yeah, exactly. Like change. Literally just had that happen it still happens sometimes, happened to a contact recently. And seeing it continue to mature and of like, you know, what is my job role? How am I measured? And how am I viewed in the company rather than just being a catch-all whenever someone's like, oh, we don't know who should do this. Is it dev related? Send it to this individual. Yeah. It seems like that's continuing to be the case moving forward. It's just becoming a little bit more defined. Correct.
Yeah, definitely. And we're seeing that really reflected in the job titles. Oh, yeah. And that's another one. If you happen to be on the report, it's under the people section. And one of the questions we asked was, what's your current job title, most recent job title? And again, this has changed from developer advocates. The first year we did the survey 11 years ago, we actually called it a developer evangelist survey. That's what we called it.
Yeah.
And, we wanted to kind of find out at that time, who were these people, what were their jobs, and, what were they struggling with? And, now we see, half, like 53% of people have a developer advocate type title, either senior manager, developer advocate. But that means the other 50% have something different. Like that's significant. A lot of them still have a DevRel role title, and head of developer relations, director of developer relations, director, developer relations engineering, that sort of thing. So it's a DevRel role, but we also see community managers, we see tech writers, we see success managers, and we're seeing more of that play out, which is great because there are so many roles that are important to this function.
So with it becoming more defined means they're going to need leadership as those roles continue. Are we seeing much in the C-suite yet, or like higher level, like VPs of developer experience or chief developer experience officers? Are you running into that yet? Because that's got to be around the corner as we continue down this path.
Yeah, there's been a couple, but not enough. And I think there's a couple of reasons why. On one hand, you have the larger companies, we kind of call those the Dev Plus companies, who their developer tool is not the main focus of the company. It's something to enhance the products that they already have. So having like a VP DevRel is still going to take time, as they see that as a key persona. I think we'll see more of those. We are seeing VP roles, but not necessarily that C-suite role yet. Now, on the other hand, we've got the dev tooling companies, and especially the startups, like they're, really when you look at them, the whole company is a developer relations function because that persona is the user, right? Until they start to mature and go enterprise as opposed to that kind of self-service motion. And so, then they're just the chief technical officer or the chief marketing officer or what it is, and they haven't really tacked the dev marketing or the DevRel title onto those roles. Yeah, even though that's what they do. We know that's what
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, hacker founders are basically chief developer experience officers these days, I feel like, anyways. But yeah, we'll probably see it first and foremost in, like the open source or like that tool stuff like that. Uh, so talk a little bit more about job function now. As always, building trust and credibility seems to be task number one with these roles. No matter what your specific day-to-day role is, it's still your overarching.
internally and externally.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, expand on that a little bit. I'd love to hear your take there.
Well, again, sort of coming back to some of the history or misconceptions of what DevRel is and where it's located in a company. If it's in marketing, it's so important to have that collaboration and alignment across the company. Where's that handoff between I brought somebody into the funnel and now I want them to read your docs. And if it's not signposted properly or the docs aren't there or the product's not ready, whatever it is, you don't have that developer journey happening. Or you've got the product and it's fantastic, but nobody's finding it. Well, we've got to figure out how we go back and talk to get some sort of marketing function happening. And, so there's still a lack of understanding of how DevRel is not a role, it's a function.
Yeah.
And there's a number of roles to support that function of helping a developer become successful in finding and using your product and, eventually building with it and scaling with it.
Totally. I feel like it's you said internal and external. I think like the external is obvious the function there, but internal, and a lot of our attendees can probably relate, and our own clients can relate, and our points of contact that we speak to, they can almost be gun shy or nervous sometimes because they're not exactly sure what their defined place in the company is and what they have control over, what they don't have control over. And I think if at least one of my takeaways, even without like the report backs this up, but even just speaking within our client base, if you want to build a healthy external model for developer relations, keeping them confident and happy internally, like you would do with any position, is going to benefit you significantly. It comes back down to define job roles, right? And then like hierarchy, responsibility. Exactly. Totally agree.
And really, we always come back to the developer journey map, like really understand, who's the persona and what's their journey? What are they looking for as they, go through to discover and into scaling with you? And then which role looks after that particular area? That collaboration between all of that. And, if you think that one person can be responsible for all of that, there's crazy talk. It's just not.
We always get the question, what should we do first? And it's like, should I do community first, or should I do content first, or should I develop our doc experience first? I'm like, this shouldn't be a question of first. It should be a question of who's doing what.
Exactly. Said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said it. You said it.
I usually breeds happier people. Yeah. Simple. What did you see any within the like actual report, any new answers for what companies are doing outside of the usual when it comes to trying to build trust and credibility within their organizations? Or is it just maturity of the same processes of, like I said, usual like community development, content creation, stuff like that?
I want to touch on docs and doc tools. And, we see that in some of our clients, and certainly over the years, because people look towards Twilio and they look towards Stripe going, well, they built their own doc system. We should build our own doc system. And then they're not able to keep up with it. It's like, what's more important, building out your product or building out this functionality for your doc system when there's so many good tools out there that
Yeah.
exist? And so, that was one of the questions that we asked that was a bit surprising around tools was, do you build your own? Yeah, we're still sort of building our own. It's like,
Well, I do that. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm sure you've read it too. A lot of times these companies, because they know they can, they'll build it rather than buy it. Whether it's like a content management system instead of just getting WordPress or something like that.
And so, we see it growing. We've seen that make a difference, but there certainly are some really great tools out there. And saying what, almost 50% are handcrafting their SDKs or libraries. I really think that's going to change with AI and with some of the good tool companies like, API Matic and Fern that have got those capabilities for them. So, again, stick to your knitting, as my grandma would say, or or do you want to like try and be everything? And you just can't be, right? Or that's not the best strategy.
Exactly. Like you only have so many hours in the day. We've already talked about how the roles typically usually stretch thin. Let's use it most effectively. I've also noticed the events seem to be, I know we're a few years post-COVID at this point. It seems like event marketing is moving slow for a little bit. I'm curious if you saw the same in the report, but amongst our clients, we've been noticing a pickup back in, or I guess a refocus and attention on live events, particularly with the skeptical audience that most of us work with.
Yeah, and events were in the early days of the survey, that was the number one way that you got out and did your marketing and help with that discovery. And yeah, then COVID hit and it's like crickets except for online, which didn't seem to work all that well.
Okay.
Definitely events picking up again.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the
I
crowd.
think we're going to keep seeing that too.
Oh yeah, or like reinvent. We were just there. I mean, which is always a monster, but yeah, we were seeing that a lot. So,
Sorry, I just want to mention one thing in terms of event.
go for it.
There was
Yeah.
somebody I responded to, I think it was on Blue Sky or Twitter, that was saying that, they've built their network of people through social media. And my response was, I built my network of people through going to events.
Same.
And part of it was that, and I think kind of age difference, right? Like, I started going to developer events back in the 90s. But I think COVID really changed a lot of that too, when a lot of the new folks came into the industry as well. But again, maybe I'm old school, but I really think the best relationships are made when you can, like, shake somebody's hand, and the next time you see them, you give them a hug and you look them in the eye, and you can really just, have a good, we're people, right? We just,
I think, whether it's DevOps, developers, data scientists, what have you, I think they feel the same, to be honest. Like some of our most successful clients or clients that have the most successful DevRel programs are seeing the most return as far as like building new active users or new clients at the events right now. It's specifically like the dev tool oriented or education sort of focused events like KubeCon, great one. Our clients that go there, they're able to meet people, show them firsthand. There's just people by people. Like that's never going to change. It just is what it is, whether it's us or another industry. I couldn't agree more. Totally.
we can't forget about the developers that can't make it.
Exactly.
Can't travel, don't have the funds, whatever it is. But I do think having those face-to-face meetings, you make stronger connections. You also learn about your product, right? And that's part of DevRel, is that feedback loop, which then makes it better, makes the whole product and process and docs better for the people that can't make those events. So I do think all of that, that combination is important.
Totally. Or, if you can't do it in person, like we constantly see hackathons are a great option on that front too. If your company can afford to throw them, it's a great way to get people involved.
Definitely. Yeah.
So, few of the key findings. So we talked about continue maturity of the role, both in terms of tying revenue to the position, which is great. That's means that's just
Function.
the function. Yeah. And the function and like showing the ROI of the position too, though, right?
Yeah.
And then defining the function of the role, and then, continued focus on building trust and credibility, whether it's internal, external, how you continue to show that with the position. Those are some of the key findings. Let's maybe start talking about some of the challenges and opportunities we're seeing moving forward. I think one of those continues to be, how to show the value to leadership. Like you said, we started the conversation showing we're seeing some maturity on that front. People are getting better at it. What are your main pieces of advice on that front for maybe some of our individuals that are in these positions that are learning how to figure out how to drive value or show the value, not necessarily drive value internally?
I mean, if you're in a smaller company, you've got to find those measurements and link the measurements along the journey. So you've got content that you're driving traffic to. What's happening next? There's lots of tools out there that will do that for you. I think those are some good ways to do it and to watch it. As we know, don't try and sell too fast. Like, have a good appreciation for the adoption cycle for developer tools is longer than it typically is for something else, because they want to learn and try and buy and build, right? What they're going to buy. So being able to link those are important. And there's tools out there that can do it. I always think it's a good idea to try and survey your companies, and whether that's doing some focus groups and having some discussions with them, or some sort of broader en masse surveys to take the pulse and see what's going on, and then work with your, if it's a marketing or a sales team or whoever it is, make sure you're working with them so they also understand that you're helping to drive that business. And participate in the sales meeting. So again, you can, so part of it is being able to show the numbers, but part of it is being able to be seen in the right places.
Exactly. It's sort of tied to what we were talking about at conferences. Like when you're able to get in front of the right people, they recognize you as part of, what's moving the wheel there at the company. It always helps. I would even maybe recommend like right out of the gates when you're potentially evaluating potential role to apply for that's related to this place. If the job listing or if you're going through the interview process, it doesn't seem like the role is very defined, I would ask to define that role, or like, hey, can I have the opportunity? Like, what are we going to be measuring me on, day in and day out? What's the actual daily task list? I would get pretty tactical, and particularly if they were offering you the position, I would just want clarity going into the role so that you can avoid the position of being turned into the catch-all. Well, once you sign on the dotted line.
That's such a good point, because you can't win on being a catch-all.
Yeah, exactly. You're just setting yourself up for failure if that's the position you're put into. So something that seemed to pop up, and this is just a challenge with a growing profession, but lack of defined career path. It seems to be a recurring theme. What are steps? I feel like this is more on the organization, but unfortunately, the individual is probably going to have a little bit of involvement here too. What are your recommendations on? I guess let's start with the organization. Like, you're the company itself. You want to have an effective developer relations career path. Well, what's step one for you?
We got to write down what the process is and what it could be. There's some really good tools out there that other folks have created for develop relations career paths. So I would, go and check those out and use that. Some of them again go towards sort of more, based on sort of business marketing functions. Some of them go based on more of those engineering technical functions. So have one, right?
Exactly right.
Figure out where those steps are. There's lots of great tools out there. And, I think for anybody who's in DevRel and thinking like, oh, I'm just an evangelist, I'm just, well, so what do you like to do and where do you want to go next? Maybe, you do lean more towards some of that marketing, or, maybe that makes product marketing become sort of a next fit for you. Or if you can help build that function, then you become the developer relations manager, because you need a check writer and you need somebody who can do the education and the webinars and that sort of thing. And you need somebody who can do something else. So you could start thinking about the role, this way, and the broad functionality that's needed. There can always be more roles that can participate and, be part of that strategic function in a company as well. So how do we start to change the product? What are we hearing from our users about what's needed and what's their needed, so we can build a product a little bit differently, or add some functionalities. And so you can start to really think strategically about the product and where the company can go. That can also increase your chances of moving up the ladder.
Totally agree. That like squeaky wheel gets the grease usually within a company, unfortunately. So the more you're trying to vocalize where you want to go, the more it'll probably resonate. The other thing I hear too, like I would say to the organizations out there, is one of the most difficult positions to hire is anything that is a job position under sort of the developer relations function. So we always have clients that are either struggling to find a good fit for the role, or aren't really, necessarily happy with the people they currently have. And it's like, well, the way you recruit, you keep good talent is having a very clearly defined career path for those individuals, showing them how they're going to grow, showing them how they're going to honestly make more money throughout the years, like define job positions. All this goes back to, like, I see all the time people post positions related to the DevRel function that they're wanting to pay someone like $55,000 and get a marketing major fresh out of college and want, stuff to happen overnight. It's like, no.
And they want them to and they want them to write this, and they want them to do a webinar, and they want them to do, it's like,
Yeah.
so I think
Your sales double. Yeah.
yeah, they're hiring. They're not hiring for the position that they need. They're not putting the right job descriptions in place and really thinking about what that person can do for one.
Exactly. You gotta you get what you pay for, and you get what you set those individuals up for when it comes to success.
Yeah. I think you said, like when talking to our developer relations community, like be focused and push back and say, no, that's not, I can do this for you. And this is what you need right now. And let's think about, what those other things are a little bit farther down the line that, might be me as I grow in my role, or, we might need to hire somebody else to support it. So yeah, push back on that, Swiss Army knife job description.
Friction, yeah. I didn't think about this before, but it's something we tell clients all the time is be proactive rather reactive. I probably make that recommendation to anyone that's in some kind of DevRel function is like, get your position to the point where it's not reactive. You're not reacting to, because at that point you just become a customer service agent. And that's not your job. You need to be, proactive strategy, defining what you're doing and how you're going to, move the needle there internally. And that's just as much on the organization, having respect for the position as it is you defining your own role. So you teased this earlier, and it's ever present in our space right now. People probably get tired of talking about it a little bit, but it popped up in the report and it popped up at every conference I went to this year. How an increased use of AI is changing positions. I'm curious to hear what you saw how you saw it being applied within the DevRel function. What were some of the major categories it's being used right now?
Major categories, research, content development, coding. That's what we're really seeing. We're seeing, like there's a company out there, writer.com, that actually has got a great development program too, but we're seeing a lot of companies and, embrace that as a tool. And, of course, there's Copilot and, I know one of our fellows when we were doing friction audits was, writing his own linter to help with figuring out, making sure that we had one source of truth for an API spec that we were doing. So there's lots of, I would say those are the categories. Lots of different tools out there. And I think we're going to continue to see lots of different tools too. So it's a bit frothy. It kind of reminds me of the early mobile days when there were so many different things coming out and you want to try them all and you don't have time or money to try them all. And then some will win and some will lose. And, I think you just got to give things a try and see how they work.
See how it is. I'm usually an early adopter. I've been more of a late adopter with the AI tools. It's sort of waiting to see who floats to the top with a lot of this. But totally agreed. Even what I've been noticing is like rather than a bunch of companies who is like sole focused is an AI use case, they're now seeing a lot more of the companies that are just learning how to supplement and improve their current tooling or applications with AI, which I think probably can be, the way we see it used more effectively moving forward. Like documentation, I see that's a great one with our clients in improving dev experiences, like just making it more easily accessible and searchable. It's been a huge one lately. I like those Q&A assistants within their documentation. It's been really interesting seeing the use cases there. So what are you seeing over the next year? So what's 2025 look like for DevRel? Any like high level takes or any hot takes you see for the position coming up, or just continuing to mature as a job function and defining those professions?
I think DevRel's the place to be.
Exactly.
When you think about it,
Yes, yeah.
well, when you think about it, technology it continues to morph and grow and change, and AI, which is so big right now. Who's doing all this stuff? Developers. What do they need to do it? They need dev tools. And how do we support them? Developer relations. Like it's kind of a no-brainer. And so it's exciting to see how that's changing and the new companies are coming up. So I think it's going to be fantastic. For us, for DevRel.agency, we're sort of doubling down and focusing on our developer experience audits because we really believe that, helping our companies, our clients take the role of developers and understand what they need when they need it, and being able to provide the content and the tools that they need when they need it will be really, really important. And Then on the other side, there still is the function of DevRel that people wonder, what it is and where are some frameworks and where this can be. And so I was really pleased this year to see the Linux Foundation support a group of people to become the DevRel Foundation. I'm so excited about that. It's something that came out of our report for a long time, that there's been this, like, we need to do something. And so I'm really excited about that. I think it's going to be great, and encourage anybody in the space to do it, because if we want, again, this function and this practice to grow and be respected, we need to speak the same language. We need to have some of those frameworks to make us stronger and faster and better at the jobs and the roles that we want.
That's something I forgot to touch on. You're totally right. Like with the maturing of the profession, it's using the same lingo, same terminology, same measurements. Like consistency is going to be huge for us. Um, Not just for like defining roles in the organization, but our own career paths. Like as you go from company to company, it's going to drive our own success. The more we're able to work as a community, the stronger we're going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And all work more, just better and more efficiently. That it's going to be better for everybody.
Totally. So before we get into Q&A here, what's your main takeaway that you want to give everyone out of this year's report? Is it maybe that, continue to foster our community here?
Yeah, definitely. We need to be positive about what DevRel is, and work together to tell that story. Let's be good stewards and storytellers of the developer relations function. And again, it's a function, right? It's not one role. It's a
Exactly.
function and a practice that supports developers on their journey to be successful. And so it's a number of multi roles, and we all, let's all be great at what we do and help our companies succeed.
Love it. All right. So first question here, proving value definitely sounds like putting together all those puzzle pieces, i.e. metrics. What are the main value metrics that usually resonate with upper leadership from your experience? We chatted on this a little bit earlier, but honestly, like anything that has a dollar sign in front of it, I find to be most effective. That could be hard to prove, but the more you could tie active users, free trial downloads, meetings, calls, the more you can tie that into like whatever sales are being cranked, which is ultimately like lead gen, MQLs, SQLs, I think the better.
Yeah. One of my first business courses I took many, many years ago, one of the professors says there's two things to remember about business. It's that you're either making money or you're saving money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's about, registrations or customers, or you're reducing churn, or
Yeah.
sales call, you're reducing sales or support calls. It's one or the other. Making money or saving money. That's it.
Yeah, it's got to have a dollar sign. If you can't show C-suite, like you said, made money or save money, they've got other stuff to worry about. That's not what they get paid for every day.
Yeah.
Okay, so next one we have here. Not sure how much data is available of that, but how much does the DevRel function differ from country to country, or simply different parts of the world? Any specific differences we should be aware? So the report does get into even like age brackets, location, a lot of those metrics broken down by industry.
Yeah, there's a great map. Like our links are working. You can try and let the paste in something, but I don't think that's going to help. But anyways, if you go into the report, under it's just above the company, there's a whole map, and the map shows where the people of DevRel are, where the companies at DevRel are, and what the average base salary is. And actually, an interesting point here, when we started this in the early days, most of the people and most of the companies offering dev tools were based in Silicon Valley, California, Silicon Valley, US. That's changing. We're seeing more companies, and Silicon Valley is still the highest percentage of where companies are, but we're seeing more companies grow up everywhere. And we're seeing difference in where people are it's still US is high, but they're all over. Our DevRel people are everywhere.
A lot of these are growing. You even see it. I keep mentioning KubeCon just because a lot of our clients attend, but they just did the first KubeCon India this past week. They've got KubeCon in Europe, and they're following where the companies are at. That's why you're seeing more of these conference locations pop up. Yeah, I'm also seeing the report here. Like,
Can I
there's usually
share my screen real quick?
you should be able to. Yeah.
And so, here you can see, that's where it shows you people, the company and on the average salary. So take a look. There's some good data, some good stuff there.
Love it. Yeah, we see a lot in Tel Aviv. There's a lot of tech out there. Continue to see that continue to grow in India.
Which is growing like crazy too. These DevRel functions and companies too. No.
Or it's we may not be seeing the data yet either, but we continue to talk clients that have a particularly close eye on the South American market lately. We continue to see how that one grows over the next year.
So yeah, it's still pretty small, and definitely salaries are pretty big thing.
So that's end of Q&A today. Thank you so much, everyone, for tolerating the initial technical issues at the beginning. Thank you so much for joining today, Carolyn. Definitely go check out DevRel.agency. Great organization there. Anything you'd like to say before we close out here?
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Yes.
I think it's been a crazy frothy year for a lot of us. So make sure you take some time to relax, read a book that has absolutely nothing to do with technology, and enjoy time with friends and family, and look forward to seeing everybody back in 2025.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you, everyone. Keep an eye out for announcements for our next webinars. We'll continue on monthly next year. Otherwise, happy holidays, everyone. Have a good one. See y'all later.